Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you are having an outstanding day. So in today's video, we are diving into serverless authentication, what it is, why it matters, and how you can use it to secure your app in just a minute. So we'll be comparing two powerful tools, Firebase and Supabase. Both offers simple, scalable, and secure authentication solution. Then we'll see which one is better fit for your project. And yes, we'll walk you through a real-time demo using React. So you can clearly see how login and registration works on both the platform. Whether you are building a SaaS product or mobile app or just getting started with React, this video will help you to decide the right auth tool for your stack. So let's jump in. This is Amey and you are watching TechnoAarambh. So let's learn together. So before we jump into the actual demonstration how to use Firebase and Supabase with React, let's understand what serverless authentication actually is. So basically serverless authentication refers to handle users authentication like sign up, login and session management without the need to manage your own server or write backend logic. Instead of building your own auth system from scratch, you use the cloud-based managed services like Firebase Auth or Supabase Auth, which offers powerful authentication APIs out of the box. This means you don't have to worry about creating the API, setting up the database, hashing password, or managing the sessions manually. These platforms handle all of that for you securely and scalably. So in short, serverless authentication lets you focus on your app's front end while the backend authentication logic is seamlessly handled by the service like Firebase or Supabase. So now let's quickly understand how serverless authentication actually works behind the scenes. So assume when user enters the email and password or uses something like Google login, your front-end app sends the credential to the authentication provider such as Firebase or Supabase. The provider then authenticates the user and returns secure token, usually a JWT token, JSON Web Token. Now, if you are not familiar with what is JWT is and how it works, I have already created a dedicated video explaining that the detail how JWT works behind the scenes and why there is so powerful. Feel free to check that out. Once the token is received, you can use it to access protected routes or the APIs without having or to managing the sessions or login states manually. And that's easily how serverless authentication works: clean, secure, and backend free. So now let's look at another scenario. What happens when we are not using serverless authentication? So for example, imagine you are building your own backend using Node.js. You have to manually create API routes for login and registration. Then accept the user's credential like email and password, and then hash the password securely using the libraries, then store it in the database like MongoDB or PostgreSQL. Every time user login, you need to retrieve the hashed password, compare it with the entered one, and generate a JWT token manually. And finally send that token back to the front end to manage the session. So as you can see, when you are not using the serverless authentication, you have to build and maintain all of this logic yourself. From the password hashing to token handling to session security. That's exactly why using something like Firebase and Supabase can save a lot of time and efforts. They can handle all of this behind the scenes securely and efficiently. So now let's quickly jump into the practical demonstration where I have created one React app. In that I have added this login and registration buttons in the home page, and then we'll integrate the Firebase first, and then we'll go with the Supabase, how we can create the API keys and how you can use those generated API keys in your React app and how it works. So let's get started. So in this app, so I have created this the auth form component. In that I have added this username and password buttons, and I have added this login and registration toggle, so where user can register, and once the registration is done, then user can navigate to the login and he can get the prompted, so login is successful or not. So in that, if you see, I have created this authform.js file. In that I have created those buttons, and I'm switching with this registration and login using this flag. And in that I have used this. So once user click on the submit, I'm using, if the provider is Firebase, then accordingly I'll hitting this create user email and password function. I'm calling this function, and for that I have created one separate file, firebase config.js. Here we can maintain our Firebase config, and we are initializing the app. And same we have done this for Supabase client, where we can enter our client, basically this project ID and the API key that is generated. So we'll see how we can generate the Firebase app key, and where we have to first create the project, and then we can see how we can generate those API keys and many more. So before that, let's start our React app. So let's do npm start. So it will take some time to start the development server. So you can see our login with Firebase login page is created. So if I click on this switch to register, it will navigate to the registration page, and once we click back to the login, it will go back, or it will be coming back to the previous state on which is the login page. So let's open this in the inspect mode to see how the API calls are getting called. So before that, let's go to the Firebase portal. So this is the Firebase portal where I have created this TA demo project. So in that we have to create this authentication, but you can see there are a couple of options. So you can use this cloud, Firestore, storage, and hosting to host your application. So currently we want this authentication. So let's click on this authentication, and inside this authentication, let's click on this get started. And in that, once you click on the get started, it will show you the couple of other options which authentication you want. So you can use this email and password, phone, or additionally you can use this additional providers that Google, Facebook. You can use those providers and use this authentication or for signing in and sign in some purpose. So let's click on this email and password, and here let's enable this feature, and let's save this. So once we click on the save, you can see this email and password is getting enabled, and you can see on the users, currently the user is not registered. So once we go back to the React app, and once we register the user, you will see this entry will getting added over here. So before that, we have to again go to this project setting, and you will see this project name, project ID, project number, and the web API key. So let's quickly copy this web API key and go to our React app. Let's go to the Firebase config, and let override this, and then the auth domain, and then let's quickly go and copy the project ID and the app ID. So this app ID is getting created, so let's copy this app ID and go back to our app, and let's enter. Then let's go to the front end, and let's clear the network, just reload one more time, and then let's go switch back to the register, and let's enter this email. So I'm using this test1@gmail.com, and let's enter the password. So 345, and let's click on this register. It is validating the entered data, and accordingly it will generate, but it written with some error message. The password should be at least 6 characters, so I have update the password. So let's do, and let's again go and click Let's clear the browser network, and let's click on the register again one more time. And if you see, the success message is coming, or the prompt is coming on the UI. So again, let's go to the Firebase portal, and you can go to the authentication, and you can see this test1@gmail.com is getting, this user is getting added inside the list. So accordingly, you can see this registration is successfully done. So now again, let's go back on the UI. Let's switch back to the login, and let's try to log in with those credentials. And if we can see, once we enter the login, it validates the entered email and the password, and accordingly we'll see the login is getting successfully done. Success message or prompt is coming. So accordingly, you can integrate those authentication on your app, or which is maybe on mobile app or the web app. You can use this Firebase authentication service, and you can use those and handle those authentication. So now let's again go back to so now it's time for the Supabase, how Supabase can work. So again, I will update this app.js. So again, let's go to the app.js, let's comment it out the Firebase currently, and let's comment this, and let's again go back to the browser, and you can see the login with Supabase, it's getting added. So now again, now it's time to go to the Supabase portal. So I have so basically I have created the organization, but I have not created the project in the Supabase. So now let's create the project. So I'll give you project, my first project, the project name. I have added this default name, and then let's enter the database password. So, and the region, I'll use the South Asia, and let's create the project. It will take some time to create the project. So now if you can see, my first project is getting created. So now here also we have to create the authentication, but there are a couple of more features that you can use, this database, storage, edge functions, and many more. So we'll cover those features later, but currently we are just looking for this authentication. So now let's go to the authentication, and you can see currently there is no user is getting added. So once we register, then the user is populated in this list. But before that, let's again go to this project setting, and we have to copy a couple of APIs. So here is the public API key. So let's copy this one, go to the Supabase client.js, and let's replace this key, save this, and then again we have to copy this project ID, and we have to replace this before dot key with our newly created project ID. And let's again go back to the browser, and you can I will add my email. So I will add this amyagni@gmail.com, and let's enter the password. But before that, we have to register this user. So this is not registered yet, but let's again go back to the switch to the registration, and here I will add, and let's click on the register. We will see the success prompt is coming. So basically this user is getting registered. So let's again go back to the Supabase portal, and let's go to the authentication. Let's refresh this, and you will see this Amagni is getting this my email ID, or the user is registration successfully done. So user is getting added in this. But before that, in this Supabase, we have to confirm the authentication. Once you register, it will send a confirmation email to this email ID, then where we have to confirm the users validation, and then you will get the login. So before that, if I tried to log in, it will show the email is not confirmed. So for that, I have to confirm the email. I have confirmed the email which is coming on my email address. So let's again try to log in. Let's click on the login. You will see the login is successfully done. The success prompt is coming on the UI. So in this way, you guys can integrate those Supabase or the Firebase authentication on your Android app or your web app. So that's all about how serverless authentication works along with practical demonstration. So let's do a quick recap of what we have covered in this video so far. So first we understand what serverless authentication is and how it works behind the scenes. Then we have explored the scenario where we are using for we assume if we are not using the serverless auth, then we have to manage backend code, password hashing, secure storage and more all by yourself. After that we move to the practical demo where we have created project on the Firebase console enabling email and password authentication and integrated those credentials into our React app. And we saw how registration and login works and how the user data appears on the Firebase user list. And then we repeated the same step using the Supabase where we created a project, enabled the auth and trusted registration and login with our React app. So that's how serverless authentication works and how you can easily integrate it in your web app or mobile app using this Firebase or Supabase. If you found this video very helpful, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep learning, happy coding and have a wonderful day.